Where in the world did this thing come from? Check out our video and learn how we made it. Hi, I know this isn't a typical video for this channel, but we just had to share all of the adventures that went into making this really crazy public art project that is the UFO you see before you. Some of you watching might be aware that Denton, Texas was declared the Halloween capital of the state of Texas, and the city has put a great deal of effort over the past year into really ramping up their celebrations and expanding it through all 31 days of October. And we were very excited to be one of the artists that was selected to work on one of the projects that would be incorporated into the celebrations. As you can see from the map created by the city, there are just a myriad of different attractions kind of sprinkled around downtown Denton. And the UFO that we were commissioned to create is located in area 940, which is just south of the square on Cedar Street and a little parklet there. So my wife Amut and I were commissioned to create this UFO attraction for Area 940, and although there wasn't a great deal of advance notice, we were able to just put our plans into action and build this thing in just a matter of a few weeks and get it installed in time for the celebrations all through October. We had collaborated on a variety of different projects before, usually in the realm of jewelry and tableware and vessels and things like that, and certainly nothing to this scale, but it was really amazing to come together and plan out this crazy project. About 20 years before this, I was involved in another pretty fun public art project, collaborating with a friend of mine, Ray Masters, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania was celebrating its connection to dinosaurs through its Natural History Museum, and created an opportunity for artists to decorate and alter large fiberglass dinosaurs. And so Ray and I put together a somewhat humorous proposal that postulated that dinosaurs were more advanced than we ever imagined, and that in the days leading up to their destruction, some of the more clever dinosaurs took advantage of some of the less intelligent dinosaurs and sold them anti-asteroid suits so that they could survive the coming apocalypse. So again, that was another sort of short notice project, but something that I was thinking about quite a bit while we were also working on this larger public art project, but also with a little bit of a condensed time frame. So the city of Denton put out a call for proposals from artists that would be interested in building different aspects of the new places and attractions that the city would be offering for this year's Halloween celebrations. And so they provided these two sort of inspirational images as a starting point for constructing a larger 10-foot diameter UFO for the Area 940 attraction. For those of you that don't know, Area 940 is a little bit of an in-joke since it's the telephone area code for Denton in the North Texas region. So given that Amut and I are both metalsmiths, we decided we absolutely wanted to build the UFO from predominantly metal, and started thinking about inspirations and the best way to go about doing that. Now, we knew the city wanted a pretty stereotypical kind of flying saucer design, but we're both Star Wars fans. I will confess that the first movie I ever saw in the theaters was the first released Star Wars film ever, so it imprinted deeply upon me. And so some aspect of this flying saucer design was having kind of that outer rim of its design be inspired by some of the detailing, particularly on the Millennium Falcon of the Star Wars series. So those of you might be aware that those kinds of mechanical detailing are often referred to as greebles, a term that George Lucas developed. And so we thought that would be a fun little detail to add into our design of the flying saucer, and became kind of the limiting size to the components of all of the elements of what we would assemble for our flying saucer design. So we knew overall that we wanted to make most of the UFO out of metal panels, riveted and bolted together, and that we would vacuum form that outer rim kind of mechanical details, and that became kind of the size limitation of the rest of the panels. And we knew that kind of the top cockpit would be a hemisphere of mirrored acrylic dome. So those were kind of all of the size limitations, and we just did a quick little maquette that you see here, figuring out just how all of those components might generally come together and get a sense of the overall size of the thing. So the next step was to create the forms that would become the basis of the vacuum form pieces that we would line the outer rim with. And somewhat humorously and ironically, we did tear apart a bunch of old Star Wars toys to become the basis of some of those forms, along with just a myriad of other kind of found objects of whatever we had kind of laying around the studio. And it was just a really fun, playful stage to the process. Now, if you're not familiar with vacuum forming, essentially you take a thin sheet of styrene plastic and you use a vacuum forming machine where it has a heating element at the top that begins to soften the styrene panel. And then when it's at the appropriate amount of heated softness, you then slide that frame with the styrene panel down onto your form that has been placed on a vacuum table, and then that vacuum pulls the heated styrene around your form. And there's some design elements that you need to keep in mind so that you can remove the styrene from the mold that you've created. As you can see, it's a relatively quick process, so let's take a closer look at, this is one of the forms that we put together for the panel, and you can see the mashed together miscellaneous Star Wars toys, and that is sitting ready on the vacuum forming table. And then after that process of heating the styrene and pulling it down onto the form, you can see how that thin panel results over top of the form. And we wanted to do this because we're also planning on backlighting it and letting the LED lights show through it when completed. So the next step was to go get the metal to make the rest of the UFO with. So the folks at Metal Warehouse down in Louisville were very accommodating and brought the order right out and helped us load it onto the roof rack of the CRV, since that's what we had available to be transporting the metal back to the University of North Texas to start cutting it down into the panels for the UFO. So apparently it takes a village to make a UFO, and I greatly appreciate everyone's help at CVAD in helping me get the metal unloaded from the CRV and into the sculpture shop to begin working with it. Now, we had planned to simply shear the panels needed to assemble the UFO. And however, we ran into some difficulties with the shearing, and I just assumed that since this was an alloy of aluminum that I had not previously worked with, that maybe there were just some issues there with that alloy of aluminum, or perhaps with the shear handling the size or thickness of that sheet. However, later when folks from the metal warehouse reached out to me, apparently there had been a mix-up in the order, and so instead of the aluminum sheets, they had given us 304 stainless, which is an amazing alloy of stainless. However, it is non-magnetic, so when I did a magnetic test, it didn't reveal itself to be stainless steel. So we had to improvise and overcome. So thankfully, we had access to a CNC plasma cutter that made short work of all of cutting out the 52 total panels. That's 26 panels for the top part of the UFO and 26 differently sized panels for the underside of the UFO. And so we were, after running into those problems with the shear, just the next day we were able to jump on the CNC plasma and get to work cutting out all of those panels. Later that day, wanted to just do a quick initial layout of the underside panels just to make sure that the measurements and our maquette was accurate enough that as we started drilling and assembling that it would come together and form the 10-foot diameter UFO that we had planned on. And the only space that we had available that was large enough to work on this was out in our driveway, since it wouldn't even be able to get out of our garage if we built it on the inside of the garage. So the next step was to start measuring out and drilling the holes, since the 26 panels of the underside of the UFO would need to be bolted together first and then flipped over and begin building the top of the UFO on above that. So there was a bit of a process to map out all of those holes, pre-drill them, drill them out to size, and begin threading them together with the bolted connections. But it was really exciting just to see it come together in a much larger version of the maquette. And having never built anything quite like this before, it was beginning to feel like a bit of a relief that all of the plans were coming together relatively smoothly. So the panels of the underside of the UFO are pop riveted together in addition to the threaded connections at its corners. We opted to do this just to give it a little bit more rigidity and stability, even though those details might not be as visible to the public as the top side. And really loved how, as it was starting to come together, even though it was still sort of relatively floppy at this point, as we learned when we had to flip it over, I really loved how the panels were coming together and this subtle kind of curvature that was starting to develop as they were being assembled. So for the metalsmithing or engineer nerds following along, in case you're interested, how we decided to design the whole thing was the most of the weight would be supported by that interior bottom ring that's about 60 inches in diameter that would be put up on cinder blocks supporting the piece, and that would give access to the interior of the UFO for final assembly and lighting and things like that. So you see here that that interior supporting ring bolted into the bottom panels, and then those would then be attached at the outer rim with 7-inch spacers. So you would have PVC pipe and threaded connections that would attach to the top panels. And then about 2/3 of the way up, there would be approximately a 24-inch threaded rod connection that would connect and tie in the bottom panels to the top panels. So you see that washer and cap nut and threaded rod starting to attach the bottom panels to the top panels. So once that system of attachment was working out well, it was relatively straightforward to just continue drilling and bolting and assembling and drilling and bolting and assembling all the way around to affix the 26 top panels to the outer rim and the bottom panels. And while this was happening, Weren't sure exactly how the exact form would end up, but again, it was getting that really great curvature from that outer rim up to those supporting rods, tying the top panels to the bottom support ring. And I just love that kind of sweeping curvature. And then we opted to leave a little bit of those gaps that was starting to happen between the top panels, because we knew the interior would be lit, and you would get a little bit of a glow between those panels, particularly at night, that would enhance the overall experience of checking it out. Here's a peek inside how that assembly is coming, and you can see the supporting rods as they're tying the bottom into the top. And by this point in the assembly, although it was a lot of physical work, this was really a time when we knew it was all going to come together well and really be quite an impressive and beautiful project. Here's another interior cross-section as those top panels are coming together, and the mirrored acrylic dome is still covered with its blue protective plastic, but we have it up on the cinder blocks for access, and those side vacuum form panels are starting to be kind of sketched out and rough assembled into the outer rim. This was really an exciting moment where we did just kind of a quick lighting test in the evening after assembling a whole bunch of the panels, and really saw how that LED rope light was going to illuminate through those styrene vacuum form panels, and it really just felt like it was coming to life at that point. So here's a shot of Umut starting to install the vacuum form panels permanently in the outer rim of the piece, and just having some painter's tape for holding and positioning while the adhesive set. And I have to say, it's not every day you can look out of the window of your house and see a UFO taking shape in your driveway. So that was another unique aspect to this project. So now all the rough assembly is done. We're into the final preparations for delivery, which involved scrubbing off all of the grime from the plasma cutting, as well as drying it off and applying the vinyl decorations and other little detailing to the piece. Some of you out in the Star Wars nerd land might recognize the Arabesh, the Star Wars alphabet, and we decided to put it onto the UFO so it says Thurmans on one side and UFO on the other side. So just a little insider nerd info for you guys. And of course, with the completion of any artwork, of course, that artwork needs to be signed. So we added our signatures and date to the completion of the piece. And let's take a little tour around some of the beautiful little aesthetic details of it. So here it is, all finished and ready for pickup by the city. Protective rubber gasket edging has been installed along the sheet metal edges. Everything's been cleaned. The reflective dome's been installed. We added some fun little kind of alien detailing and tidbits with some cut vinyl onto the dome. The Thurman's UFO writing across some of the panels. And just really proud moment of seeing it all come together from this vision to this finished kind of crazy object that we've been living with in our driveway. And so the city will be arriving shortly to transport it to its location. The guys from the city did a great job just being careful with this crazy 10-foot diameter UFO sculpture that we had just created, and took their time moving it appropriately, getting it loaded on the flatbed, and preparing it for safe transport to its Area 940 location. It's certainly not every day that you get to see a UFO riding on a flatbed through the streets of Denton, but it was certainly a highlight to see it get pulled on out of our driveway and transported safely to its location to begin the festivities for Halloween. So the aliens were waiting for us as we arrived at the Cedar Street Park. And again, the crew from the city of Denton did a fantastic job safely and carefully moving a quite awkward and somewhat heavy UFO to its resting place for display. So here are a couple shots of it installed in that Cedar Street Park, which is just a short block south of Denton's main square. And you really got to check it out at night. The interior is lit by a color-changing rope of LEDs that shines wonderfully through the those vacuum-formed styrene panels. So it's certainly a glorious sight, day or night. So come on by and check it out. And we're so grateful to have the opportunity to work with the city on this fun, challenging, and creative project. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you can hear from me when I post future videos. Thanks for stopping by.